Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 3 of Tour of Romandie. 19 kilometers, just about 12 miles in length, and a fabulous course that Tour of Romandie organizers have put together for us to view from the Chesterfield here on stage 3. When the race starts and they leave the ramp, you see right away they're going to start climbing uphill. Then it gets technical with hard, almost like 180 turns. Then you start climbing up steep climbs of 7-8% ramps. We'll ease up in a couple sections. Then when they get to the final top, it's a downhill run all the way into town. That's crazy, where they go through some logging areas. They go through some neighborhoods with tight road furniture all over the place. Then with 500 meters, they're coming in where the sections barricade off. 300 meters, you have a tight left turn, then a chicane basically all the way to the finish. But at that 300 meter chicane, you just have a bump coming up, a quick right into a hard left, and then chicane slightly downhill all the way into the finish, coming out of a right-hand bend that'll throw them into the finish line of today's stage 3 individual time trial. It's a magnificent course. It was fun to watch today's individual time trial. Now, throughout my career here at Tour of Romandie, I remember getting the race leader's jersey on the last road stage, and that day I just had to pull like crazy all the way into the finish. Even though I had Eric Decker on my wheel, I knew he was an individual time trial specialist, but if I wanted for sure a race leader's jersey, I had to just go into the top of that not quite summit finish. We went up and then it plateaued at the top for a few K as it went into the last right turn and then started a little uphill sprint to the finish. I knew I was going to lose on that stage if I pulled all the way into the finish, but I knew I'd get the race leader's yellow jersey, so I did it. Then the next day, Eric Decker just made mincemeat out of me in the individual time trial, and he won the overall, and I think I was about 5th on the general classification that year. Other times when I was racing the Vuelta a España, I went into the individual time trial that day with knowing that I was going to lose time. There was no doubt about that, but that morning I felt fantastic. I was putting out 500 watts when we were warming up, previewing the course. And then when the time trial came proper that late that afternoon, as soon as I got into the TT position, I realized that the organizers who designed the TT skin suit for the race leader made it too tight and too narrow. When I tried to get in the position, I couldn't get into the proper aerodynamic position. I had to actually tear holes into the jersey of the skin suit there in order to finish that race. End up losing almost 3 minutes to my teammate Fabian Cancellara, who won that individual time trial, but I lost about 1.5 minutes to Vincenzo Nibali and the other GC threats there at the Vuelta a España, and then gave up the race leader's red jersey there, but did, of course, win it back right on the Angliru stage to finish out the last mountain stage there of that year's Vuelta a España. But now when we're up here and we're talking about Tour of Romandie, when you're kind of coming into these individual time trials, I liked it when it was 2-3 stages into the race, like we're seeing here on stage 3, day 4. But not all the riders like individual time trials, and I'm going to point out one specifically. It might be a little bit harsh on him today, but maybe he'll find something out of there that'll help him out. Now, when the cameras come on, it's Marco Brenner there from DSM that's in the race leader's hot seat. We're going to see Michael Woods, Israel Premier Tech, warming up. He's got a bit of a sweat going on. His hair's all over the place right there as he's trying to warm up for today's individual time trial. Then all of a sudden, we're going to start seeing Mikael Bjerg, the UAE Team Emirates rider. He's flying into the finish, and he's going to take the hot seat at the end of his individual time trial right here on stage 3. When he comes across the line, he knows he's got best time. Then he does an interview just afterwards, talks about how the descent of today's stage was just too much. He didn't like it. He's got a beautiful wife at home, doesn't believe it should be anywhere in a race like today. And I'm here to argue with that. I thought the finish was fine. No problems on today's finish. The road was a little bit crazy when they're going through the logging section, but I don't mind the chicanes and stuff. You can preview the course, I'm sure, just like all of the individual time trial races I've ever done through my career. You can always get there and see the finish so you know what's coming, and you need to be able to ride your bike. So when we're seeing up there with Mikael Bjerg arguing that it just wasn't safe, I don't agree with it. It looked like a fantastic course and a beautiful individual time trial course that finally wouldn't put you to sleep when you're sitting on the Chesterfield. Now, Mikael Bjerg's holding in the hot seat, and we're seeing Michael Woods out there, and as he's coming into 300 meters to go before we start that real chicane into the finish, we see he's adjusting a little bit on his bike, comes out of the left turn there at the bottom, and you see, looks like he's almost stopping right there, and then he's going to try to accelerate. And when you watch him come out of this right turn into the left chicane, you see he's all the way into the center of the road there, and he's not coming straight at the barricades there. You see the little girl there that's watching him. She's not flinching at all, so you know he's coming nowhere near the fencing. He'll go around that chicane left bend there, come into the final right-hand turn, and when you watch him come out of this right-hand turn, Michael Woods is all the way on the right side of the road. He's not even coming out with enough speed to have to drift his bike out to the left side of the road as he comes all the way into the finish and gives up a ton of time at the end of today's stage. Guys, he's going to lose about 1 minute and 45 seconds and finish beyond 60th place on today's individual time trial stage when it's all said and done. 63rd, if I remember correctly, at just about 1 minute and 45. That is a ton of time lost for Michael Woods. And let me remind you guys, 2 years ago, at the end of the road stage, before they went into the last individual time trial stage, it was Michael Woods that won that summit finish, which is the same summit finish we're going to have on tomorrow's summit finish road stage of stage 4 here at Tour of Romandie. So Michael Woods has a lot to gain by having a solid individual time trial here. But when you looked at the way he rode, it was catastrophic. All the descents, the corners were miserable. Now we start looking at Thibaut Pinot, and I'm going to point out Thibaut Pinot's ride here because it's solid. He's going to finish top 20 on the stage here when it's all said and done. But when we look at Thibaut Pinot, when he's going through the hairpin turn there on the cones, he's scrubbing the cones, he's scrubbing the inside of the road. When we see him come into the last 300 meters, okay, he's not perfect coming up over that right and that same chicane that I showed you the picture there of Michael Woods. Now we compare there of Thibaut Pinot. He's still not taking it as far to the left to scrub that wood fence on the side there where the spectators are watching, but he's at least a little bit more solid, and he does a pretty decent time trial finish here when he crosses the line to put himself into the top 20 of the individual time trial stage when it's all said and done. He didn't lose much time. So when we're talking about Michael Woods, when we're really comparing his descending skills, guys, this guy's quality rider. There's no reason why he should be losing 1 minute and 45 seconds at the end of today's stage. But when you look at how slow he was through all the corners, maybe for all the Canadian spectators out there and for the North Americans out there that love to see Michael Woods do better, maybe he needs to go over to Thibaut Pinot and say, hey, Thibaut Pinot, how did you get so much better at descending when you used to be the absolute worst that I have ever seen in the peloton was Thibaut Pinot? Guys, there was a fight to be in front of Thibaut Pinot before every descent at the Tour de France. It was crazy how much fighting there was just to be in front of him when you went over any summit because you were sure he was going to shoot you off the back and open gaps all over. And now Thibaut Pinot, he's not that bad. He's pretty decent. Not up there in the top 50% of the field, but he's pretty decent while going downhill. So Michael Woods can maybe give a call there to Thibaut Pinot and see if he can help him out. Now let's get back into the racing because there's some action happening, and Will Barta, the Movistar rider, is going to come across the finish line to put himself in the hot seat with a fabulous -5 seconds over Michael Björk. Now Movistar are not done yet. They're going to put on a show today, but when we start looking at all the first time checks back there, we're going to see Gino Mader, Bahrain victorious, come through at just 0.3 of a second behind Will Barta. Now Gino Mader's throwing in fast, and if you remember right, on yesterday's stage, he did that sit-down attack that was so impressive near the finish. So you know Gino Mader from Bahrain Victorious has some solid form. We look at the next riders coming across the first time check back there. It's going to be Matteo Jorgensen, 8 seconds up on the best time at the first time check. So Movistar are looking solid here on stage 3 of Tour of Romandie. Next rider up, Adam Yates, crosses -1 second on Matteo Jorgensen's time. So UAE team members have a threat here to start taking over the race general classification if Yates can hold on to this speed going down the descent. Now, as we start coming into the chicane, we see Gino Mader. He's just starting to lose a little bit of time, and he won't be able to dislodge Will Barta, but Matteo Jorgensen's flying through the last chicane here. He'll cross the line 13 seconds up on Will Barta's time to put Movistar first and second on the stage here. That's two Americans holding the first top two spots here on stage 3 of Tour of Romandie. Next up, though, Adam Yates is coming down, and remember, he had the fastest time split through the first check. Adam Yates will fly through this section going maximum. When you see him hit the chicane, look at the kid with the baseball hat. Yates is going so fast out of this right, going into the left, that the kid there backs up off the wood fencing there as Adam Yates barely makes the turn, flies it into the left, straight down into the finish as he comes out of the right turn all the way against the left side of the road as he's taking up maximum real estate here coming into the last 100 meters before the finish. He'll throw his bike at the line, but it'll only be good enough for second place as he can't dislodge Matteo Jorgensen from Movistar, but he did bump in front of Will Barta, so now we don't have a Movistar 1-2 right now. That's okay. There's still quality riders back there coming, and the next guy's coming to leave the ramp is going to be Juan Ayuso from UAE Team Emirates. We see Remy Cavagna. He's taken off from the ramp. He's a national French TT champion. We see the World Rainbow Band jersey as he's getting ready to roll off the ramp. That's Jumbo Visma's Tobias Foss. Then last rider to leave the ramp, the big threat here to win today's individual time trial, Ethan Hayter. He's got the race leader's yellow jersey on, and he's got the national British time trial TT helmet on because he's the current individual time trial champion for England. Now, as he leaves the ramp, he's directly right into his TT bars. We start looking at the time checks as they're coming across the first time checks up top, and all of a sudden we see Juan Ayuso is just a little bit off the pace, about 5 seconds behind Adam Yates' time. Next guy to cross the line, Remy Cavagna. He's out of any chance here of winning today's individual time trial or keeping him up in the race leaders GC battle. And then we see Tobias Foss cross the line 12 seconds back, I believe about 8th place at the first time check. That's going to be a lot of time to have to make up if he wants to win today's individual time trial. Ethan Hayter's not having any luck either. He's going to cross the line at 22 seconds back. We know Ethan Hayter has no chance of winning today's individual time trial, but now as the top 4 riders start crossing the line, we see Juan Ayuso. He is coming out of that left turn there at the bottom with 300 meters to go, flying as he goes up to the chicane to the left again. He's scrubbing the fence. He comes down and out of the last right-hand bend, accelerating all the way to the line to take the race leader's hot seat here on stage 3 of the individual time trial. Now, we still got a few other guys to finish back there, but we know the only guy that has any shot back there is going to be Tobias Foss. Remy Cavagna across the line, but he's lost over 40 seconds. Tobias Foss is throwing everything into it because even if he can't win the stage, he could still keep himself up on the individual classification if he can pull all the way into finish. He comes out of the right turn, throwing down on the pedals, throws his bike at the finish to cross the line 24 seconds down on the time of Juan Ayuso from UAE Team Emirates. That'll keep him in the top 10, 8th place on the stage. But then we see Ethan Hayter. When Ethan Hayter comes across, the last rider to finish today's individual time trial, he'll cross the stage 49 seconds down on the time of Juan Ayuso. Now let's back up and look at the last corner there of Juan Ayuso coming out of it as he's sprinting. The pictures here were super clear. You see the vein sticking out on his left side of his neck right there as he's going all the way into the line, throwing his bike as he crosses the line with a little excitement just afterwards of the shrug of the shoulders and pounding on the handlebars as he knows he's won today's individual time trial, and along with the win, he'll take the race leader's yellow jersey because he started today's race in 4th place on the general classification. Now he moves up into the race leader's jersey. Now Movistar had a fantastic ride with Matteo Jorgensen finishing 2nd on the stage and Will Barta 5th on the stage. 2 Americans in the top 5. But UAE Team Emirates, they got a solid group, right? Because Adam Yates is his teammate. And then when we look further back on the GC, in 7th spot, Finn Fisher-Black had a good individual time trial to keep himself up in the top 10. So UAE team members are looking solid on tomorrow's Queen stage at over 160 kilometers and a summit finish. This is a big, stiff climb, one that Michael Woods is familiar with, because as I told you earlier in the video here, Michael Woods had won this stage 2 years ago when it was Geraint Thomas whose hand had slipped off in the cold and rainy conditions, and he fell to the ground. So Michael Woods easily won that stage. And now when we look at tomorrow's stage, the one beautiful thing about moving the time trial to before this stage is now there's going to be chaos. Everybody's going to be attacking. If we go back all the way to 2007 when I was in the race leader's jersey, that was because I knew I could just pull straight to the finish, even with the TT guys on my wheel, because at that point in time, there was no other choice. But now tomorrow, everybody knows this is the Queen stage. The TT's already decided if you can get yourself in the race leader's jersey on tomorrow's stage, you could hold it all the way to the finish and you can win the Tour of Romandie. So everybody's got nothing to lose. They're going to be big time attacks. When we're talking about Jumbo Visma's Tobias Foss, remember he's gone top 10 in Grand Tour wins and Grand Tour races, so you know he can go big and throw in long attacks. So we should see a lot of excitement in tomorrow's mountainous stage, because with no TT left to finish out Tour of Romandie, everybody has nothing to lose and they got to go big. UAE team Emirates with Adam Yates to protect Juan Ayuso look fabulous. Finn Fisher-Black's been climbing strong. And then they still have Rafael Micah that's in the top 20 thereabouts on the general classification. So UAE team Emirates, Juan Ayuso, who just looked dominant coming into the last 300 meters. Remember, over the first time check, he was still behind Adam Yates' time, but when we came into the finish, that Spanish kid never quit working as he was pulling all the way to the finish with every vein in the neck sticking out to cross the line and go into tomorrow's race as the big time favorite. But today's individual time trial was his first big Pro Tour win for the Spanish rider. So tomorrow, if he can hold it through the mountain stage and then one more stage after that, he can wrap up his first week-long stage race here at Tour of Romandie for UAE Team Emirates. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.